for the 28th of October to order and have a roll call, please.
Director Clark,
Present.
Director Radek,
Here.
Director Decker,
Here.
Director Radback,
Here.
Director Slater Carter,
Present.
Chair Dye.
Here.
Good.
Do we have any comments from members of the public on items that are not on the agenda?
I don't see any hands raised. No, none.
Okay. Well, then, at this point, I had asked Director Ruddock, are you okay to run the meeting?
Yes, I just need to call my little thingy up here.
Well, we can move on to the consent agenda. Does anyone want to pull anything from the consent agenda?
Yes, item 3D.
Okay. Anything else? Do we want to discuss that before we approve the consent agenda? Do you think it's going to need big changes, or can we talk about it now a little bit? Or do you want to
Talking about it now.
Okay,
The retirement contributions are 331,733 in the expense report. The budget for the fiscal year 2025 is 316,305. That means we have already exceeded, after 3 months of operation, we have already exceeded the yearly budget. What is the reason?
Yeah, the reason, as we've explained in the staff report, is because of the like the annual payment, which we had to pay in the beginning of the year. Yeah, the unfunded liability of CalPERS, insurance, which is normally, instead of paying every month, we paid like the annual part of it, and some annual agreements and memberships, which totaled about 513,000 in that specific report we mentioned. Would you like to add anything more to that, George or Peter?
Yeah, Peter, can you, I'm just trying to follow along. What exact number were you looking on it?
I was looking at the end of September retirement contribution in the general expenses. They amount to 331,733. 2 lines down there, budget fiscal year 2025, it says the whole year is budgeted at 316,305. That means we are already $16,000 over the budgeted contributions. After 3 months.
are there going to be more expenses in that category?
I would expect so.
I know most of it is front loaded, but still, will there be more?
There'll be more every payroll. I'd have to look at specifically what we budgeted for the unfunded liability, because at the time we're doing the budget, we're guessing at the unfunded liability. It's not the same every year. So I'll look at that, the detail, to see.
The unfunded liability was 305,000. And we were told last time we were hearing that number, that the number was included in the budget.
Yes, we made an estimate on the budget. At the time we're doing the budget, we don't get the bill. We're not told what the unfunded liability will be year to year until we get the bill in July.
We had the bill in July. It was 305,000.
Yes, so that's why I said I'd have to look at what we incorporated in that budget. But at the time we did that budget, for the total to be 316, I'd have to look at it. I'll go over that and see what the actual budget we incorporated.
All right.
We might have guessed that it was going to be like 175 for the unfunded, or the. I'll have to look.
Yeah, but Peter, if I understand your question, what you're saying is we've just completed 3 months, which is 25% of the complete year, while you have spent about 35% of the general budget. So you wanted to know why we are doing 35% compared to 25% of so many months only over. Am I right?
No, you're not right.
Yeah.
I'm saying after 3 months, we have spent so and so much money. When you compare that to the whole year, we have already exceeded the amount of money that we have in this particular contributions for the year.
That's kind of what Kishan said.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm saying.
All right, yeah.
If it's for 1 year,
Yes,
quarter of that is what should have been spent,
yes.
where we've exceeded more than
No.
quarter.
No, not necessarily. I fully understand that the 305,000 came in July. So I fully understand why that amount should be seen as to be distributed over the other month.
Correct.
The only thing I'm saying is that we had, at the time of the budget, the knowledge of the 305,000.
No,
When-
that's not true, Peter.
No.
We, when we do the budget, like we start working on the budget in January. So we're looking at prior years, see what the amounts are for the unfunded liability, and then we guess at that amount. So the budget is done prior to that, getting the bill. When we get the bill in July, that's the first time we know for sure what the unfunded liability for the year will be. So what I'm saying is you're saying, if I'm looking at it right, Peter, you can double check what I'm looking at, but I'm looking at line 4, retirement contributions.
That's correct.
As of 9:30, we are, for the whole year, we've got 316,000 budgeted.
Right.
And Peter's point is that we've already spent 331.
Yes,
Correct?
correct.
Yeah, so we'll dig into the actual, go back into our budget file to see where we got the 316,205 amount from and get back to you.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Then another item in the accounts receivable, I find Rocket Farms overdue, 30 days overdue, with an amount of $6,120. Is Rocket Farms in general paying on time?
They always pay before the end of the month. When we generate the bill, it's the first day of the month, and they have till the end of the month. So when you're seeing the report, you're seeing it right as at the end of the month. Like, for example, the more current invoice for October just got paid today. Rocket Farm, we deposit. So they're always depositing by the end of the month.
Right, thank you.
And by the way, I'd like to thank all the agencies because I remember earlier, several years ago, we had some problems with the AR, and now the AR, not only is it balanced all the time, but it's also, there's nothing that gets beyond 30 days, more than a week or two, depending on the mail and the rest of it.
Good news. That's all I had.
Yeah,
All right. I want-
okay, thanks.
Anything
you.
else on the consent calendar?
We were talking about item 3D.
3D.
Okay.
And are you
Alright.
all right keeping it on the consent calendar at this point, Peter?
Yes, I am.
And I just wanted to compliment Lori on these minutes that are here. They are very good.
Thank you.
Do we have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
So moved.
Second,
All right, can we have a roll call, please?
Director Clark. Aye. Director Radek.
yes.
Director Decker.
Aye.
Director Raback.
Yes.
Director Slater Carter.
Yes.
Chair I.
Aye. All right.
Thank you.
And just to be clear, that was all items on item 3 on the agenda, correct?
Yes,
Yes.
Okay.
All right, Debbie, are you ready?
sure.
Okay.
Moving on to item 4, regular business. There's one item, discuss and approve 5-year infrastructure plan.
Yes, the 5-year infrastructure plan was presented to the board in August. To be precise, it was presented on August 12th, and the board directed staff to add more details on the projects and then send it to the member agencies to review so that the member agency board or the council could discuss it amongst themselves and provide comments or approve. So subsequent to that, Half Moon Bay adopted a resolution approving the capital improvement project, which was presented. We are yet to hear from GCSD and MWSD, but here we are now. We made some minor changes. Those have been added in the staff report. And we would like the SAM board to approve and adopt this 5-year infrastructure plan. Any questions? Staff is here, as well as Bill Fest, who helped us put together this document. He's also available here. And we are here to answer any questions.
Are there any questions from directors? Staff?
Yes, I shared my question with Keishan before this meeting started. I said, we would like to go back to the CIP that was presented in 2017 and again in 2020, and see which of those items on that list have been considered and which one have been dropped and which one have been completed. And Keisha now knows what I'm looking for, and I'm looking forward to bring that information to our board in order for them to review the CIP again. And at the same time, I wanted to say that on 815 or B15, there's a little printing error. It says the project is the belt filter press refurbishment, but down below it says the project is now all of a sudden the replacement standby generator. That should be changed into belt filter press refurbishment. It's a bit confusing.
On which page is that, Peter?
That's on page B15. $620,000 for the belt filter press refurbishment and not for the replacement standby generator.
Okay. I can find that page. B15, you said?
I
Okay.
said B15, yeah.
Excuse me, page B15.
Yes,
Okay, I will. There's a correction that needs to be made. I'll make it.
Any other comments or questions from board members?
Yes, I handed out to everyone, and I would like this included in the minutes. Harvey made a comment the other night at MCC, and he spurred me into looking at the cost differences since about 20, well, this Bureau of Labor Statistics report is from December 2018. And the increases in cost of materials and components and labor and such from 2020 to at June of 2021, and they didn't have any more recent numbers, has gone up about 35%. And that's in about a year. So when we're looking at these numbers, and those of us who have been dealing with construction and labor and all of this stuff are in a bit of a shock.
Excuse me,
There are-
which years were you said there was a 35% increase? Was that in 1 year? Or,
That was according to the BLS, US Bureau of Labor Statistics, Thursday, August 26, 2021. They look at the price of construction, and it goes from about December 2018 to June of 2021. But the big shifts started up in about June of 2020. So yes, it is in about a year. And I know the crew here has seen it. I know the board members have seen it. We've all been kind of in a state of shock, but it is something that is very telling about why these numbers in this 5-year CIP are as high as they are. It's not thievery. It's not bad planning. It's nothing that this little area has control of. This is a nationwide statistic. My guess is it's probably higher for the Bay Area because labor goes up so much faster. And so I just wanted to get this into the record. I will keep looking and see if I can find it for August of 2023, so we can, or 2024, so we can get a more up-to-date one. But I just thought everybody would find it.
if you're interested in seeing it, I think I can get you a link to the State of California Department of General Services, and they keep a running tally of construction prices.
You know, that would be wonderful, Bill. That's a good source too. Yeah.
I can illustrate this by looking at the CIP for 2017 and the one for 2021. At that time, the standby generator replacement was estimated to cost $225,000.
That's pretty typical. I've just helped the city of Pittsburgh on a major water treatment plant expansion. We had a good cost estimator on it. They bid it in last spring, and we got 8 or 10 bids on it. And the low bid was 10 or 15% above the engineer's estimate, including contingencies. And we had several bids. It was like 4 or 5 that were lumped very close together. So the costs are they're just way up. And that's the reality of it we're dealing with.
I think what would be useful for the board is to have an analysis of this subject, compiling statistics from, various sources so that we can get a handle and make, wise engineers' estimates and, good estimates for the board to be able to, project and have some context around approvals.
I think that's maybe the general manager and the engineers purview. I don't want to be caught making any cost estimates.
No, but we want the
Construction.
context, we want the background.
Well, the context is good, and I think Bill said he would be able to find it for California on the California website, which would be wonderful. But it is what it is. I mean, the context starting in this table was COVID. And then there was all kinds of other things that were happening. So
It is what it is, but it would be helpful for it to be in a public document that the public can see.
well, but I don't think it's up to this board and this board staff to do it. I think just knowing the factors helps us to understand why we're dealing with what the costs are going to be in the not too distant future.
But I would like it included in a staff report, so that it's a public document, that the public, can see this transparently about what we're dealing with. That doesn't make sense to me to just make it a purview of staff to have this data. I think it should
Our
be.
staff is not trained economists.
No, but it's hard data about what things cost. You can leave it to people to interpret, but it's pretty clear with the number. Then if you have the numbers, the numbers don't typically lie unless you're manipulating them. So I think we should have that numbers and have it available publicly, that the public has that context as well.
It would be fairly,
Barbara has her.
Barbara
hand up.
has a comment or
I
question.
just do want to make the point. I think this is very valuable and I'm very interested in seeing it. I'd like to see the analysis that Debbie's proposing. I would also note that inflation was very high a couple of years ago and it's indeed coming down. So some highly qualified discussion of this, I think, would be helpful to look at. And the other issue is, is this being raised to say that, well, we should do everything we can right now and spend way big amounts of money because it's going to cost more later and not look at the exact, the question of whether priorities can be set? So I agree that this is an important point and I agree I'd like more information on it, but I don't think it's a reason I think the work that we authorize should be driven by need and not fear of the future.
I totally agree with you. I'm not saying that we just
No, you're not.
follow the numbers. I'm saying we use it to make informed decisions.
Well, just one note from being married to an economist and having done listened to a lot of those discussions. Price doesn't change when inflation goes down. The price stays at what it is. It just doesn't go up as fast.
Exactly.
That's true.
I can't figure out how to raise my hand on my screen. Can someone help me?
Go to reactions,
I don't
and
have
then
reaction.
you don't have a reactions button?
No.
Maybe it's in the bottom and you should jiggle stuff.
All right, I'll try to find it. I am.
Yeah, if you,
I found it. Thank you.
sure.
It was under
Jiggling.
more.
I love jiggling. It makes things appear.
Yeah, so would the board like us to get this done through a third party like Bill faced and review some of the typical wastewater treatment equipments and see what it costed in the past and what it's going to cost now and what it's going to cost in future, some sort of a report like that.
I'm just thinking of market trends.
Correct. So.
Right, so, it doesn't have to be, really deep analysis or specific pieces of equipment. It's in the industry that we work in, the wastewater treatment industry.
Yep.
Here's where costs have been, here's where they're going. Can we count on lower inflation to reduce costs? Probably not.
No.
It's just general, background, but the state of, the cost of stuff.
So we can get, we can extend the scope of work for Bill and get him to work on this stuff.
Yeah,
And
I
bring it
don't
back
see it
to
as
the
a
book.
huge thing. He has access to sources. He just needs to footnote it and, provide some analysis.
Would you like a paragraph about the general inflation trends over the last 5 years or something? And then with backup data, perhaps in an appendix? Would that be helpful?
Yeah, nothing too fancy, just
Yeah.
enough to get this background so that we can make, an informed decision,
I think if you start with 2019, because that was
Yeah.
pretty flat for 2018 and 2019.
Because I'm always hearing from people and you read it in the review and next door, it's like, why are they spending so much money? Why does stuff cost so much money? I think you need to have, sort of a public discussion about it, public information that you can share that shows people, here's what things cost.
I'd
See,
be pleased to add that if the board so wants it done.
I see Greg has raised his hand.
Right.
Yes. Thanks. Well, I'm happy to see this discussion. I think it's great. I just wanted to add a couple of data points. Back when we had 2019 data, I got the asset inventory spreadsheet from Sam and calculated what the replacement cost of those assets would be based on the remaining life. And at the time, it was about $100 million. Using summary financial data, not the detailed inventory spreadsheet, just recently, I calculated replacement cost is a little over $150 million. So in 5 years, that's a 50% increase. And I bring this up because I'm concerned about the level of reserves that have to be held in the member agencies to fund what's coming down the road. This capital plan is about 10% of the cost of replacement of the total asset portfolio over a 5-year period. That's kind of proportional. But what my calculations are showing is that the SAM assets are 72% into their useful lifetime. So you could do a little math and you could run out and see something's coming. Now, I don't know in detail what it is, right? Because I don't have the engineering understanding and an audit of what major pieces of equipment are going to go where. But I think it's worth doing some of the exercises you're talking about to alert the public. And I also think it's worth doing some math, if not a detailed asset inventory and condition assessment, because I think it's going to go much higher in the coming years in terms of expenses required of the member agencies. Thanks.
I don't know, are we sort of off the agenda topic at this point?
No, I think,
No.
I think that this is key to the agenda topic because, when I look at some of these numbers, I went, "Ugh." And, but then again, off the topic, but I've been looking at cars recently and even the used ones are crazy, so.
Well, I liked Peter's idea of actually bringing back the previous CIPs. Because that gives us context too.
Right.
One of the things I have felt that we need to have, and that would be something good to have on our website, is a map of the plant. You can click
No.
on.
It's security.
Okay, well, you need to be able to click on a piece of equipment and see when it was purchased, what it was estimated lifespan, how old is it now, how much did it cost, how much is anticipated to replace it. You should have that. It's called asset management. We need an asset management system so that we are not surprised, or we're surprised less. You know,
We're almost there. We're putting on the map of sample land, equipments,
Mhm.
and when you click on that, it gives you the year when it was purchased, and what amount it was purchased,
right.
and giving certain capacities and so on.
That's awesome.
We are working. It's called a story map.
Mhm.
We're working on that.
That is excellent. Great.
Jeremy, I'm a- concerned about the security of having a map available.
Well, it's
Yeah.
online now, isn't it? Here's the sewer plant, here's the clarifiers, here's the.
Yeah, that's already there on our plant tour video, where we say what are all equipment, so.
Okay, I'm just a little nervous about some of the things I've seen going on in other communities.
It's also on Google Earth. You can get a real good close up.
That's right.
Of the whole place.
Absolutely, yeah.
But the Google Earth, you can see the plant, but you can't see where our major pumps are.
Oh, well, yeah.
Well, I think you can.
Yeah,
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
yeah, it's pretty clear
Yeah.
in good detail.
Yeah.
The thing people typically get concerned about is as-bills. So that may be where you want to draw the line.
At what?
As-built,
The record
Okay.
information's on the design.
Right.
yeah.
Barbara has a hand up.
Yeah,
Barbara,
I was going to comment that by looking at those older ones, it would be helpful to be able to show how much has been invested in the
Mhm.
last 5 years, because the amount that has been invested has gone up considerably, and quite a few of the major items have been done. Not all by any means, but I think it is important that people know that investments are being made and things are being improved all the time.
One comment in passing, and that is, when I was working on the CIP, I went to the older CIPs. And a tremendous amount of the work, and this is along what you're saying, under Chairman Dye, a lot of the work has been done. I was looking for projects, so I can add this project, and I go down the list with Keisha, and it's, well, it's done, that's done. Or he took me around the plant and showed me all the things that have been replaced. So I think you're going to, should be happily surprised at the amount of stuff that has disappeared off those past CIPs.
And aren't they in our audits, Keishan? I don't know which section, but a lot of that, because we passed all our audits with flying colors, we've gotten awards for them.
Yeah, it gives details of our capital assets and how much of it and what's been done.
Yeah.
It's part of our ACFR.
and it's good marketing to have, on your website and materials to say, Sam has invested X number of dollars in protecting our community health via, clean wastewater. Here's how we accomplish that. So not get too nerdy, use weird, technical jargon, but just to, demonstrate how we're investing in community and ecosystem health.
I want to have empathy with Bill because he's really
I know.
lost in the woods here, and we all are. I spent a lot of time trying to figure out what this document actually means, and on page 8 of his stuff, he points out that he expected an accuracy range of -50% to +100%, and sometimes a tighter range of -30% to +50%. When you're working with those parameters, you have where do you go,
Yeah.
right? So, yeah, he did this, it's a solid effort, but, you can only work with what you have.
That's right.
And beyond that, I want to talk about what I see on table ES1, which is page 53 of our packet, and page 3 of the CIP. The bottom line, it shows the target total, and it's goes up 4% a year. And in the end, it's 38% higher in 5 fiscal years. And that was the target total, and those turned out to be, I guess, silly, because the actual total, or the proposed total above, in the next line above, is higher by 20%, 25, 26, 35%. 26, 27, it really jumps up. It's 85% higher than the target total. And 27, 28, it's 40% higher. So the targets soon lose, to me, they seem to lose meaning immediately. I don't know where these numbers come from. And, you know, they're nice round numbers, but I have no confidence. And I'm not blaming Bill. It's just the situation that we're in because of how the economy's been in the last 4 years. It's what can you do but guess?
Yeah.
There's also, you, in there, embedded in there, the big, Keishan started me out in our initial meeting as he said, Bill, we're trying for, let's start with $2.5 million. So that's what I did. And he and I agreed on the inflation, annual inflation. So that's where the 4% came from. And I think the calculations are correct. You take a big hit because you have a major force main that is a asset you replace probably once in 50 years. And it turns out that a lot of that force main's in bad shape. So that's where the tilt comes in, and as you go through it and you do the calculations. It's just that you had one very large capital project that you see very rarely, and it turned out it needs work now. If that helps explain how we came up, or how I came up with the numbers, and we started out with a target, used those, and that target could be anything, but it was, Keishan said, well, we typically try to spend $2.5 million a year. And so, but it was that force main cost that really, that tilted everything out.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Barbara?
Oh, is Matthew done?
No.
Matthew, then I have a comment.
Yeah. Where was I? So the numbers that come out considerably higher, and we just don't know, because an accuracy up to 50, between 50 minus 50% and plus 100% is very difficult to deal with. And where was it?
I think I noted in there in that appendix, so that there's a group that used to be the Association for the Advancement of Cost Engineering, and now they have an acronym. And the cost estimators around the country, actually around the world, have put together an approach. And these are called order of magnitude estimates. You may have done some study on them, but little beyond that. And so I think I said noted in the appendix, the typical, for a order of magnitude estimate, it can be plus 100 minus 50. I said, in this case, the best range I can get based on the information available looks like these are more in the range of plus 50 minus 30. It's still a large range, but I'm not expecting to see these as plus 100 minus 50. You get into the plus 100 minus 50 if you're doing a pipeline across country, and you have no idea whether you're going to hit bogs or solid rock or anything like that, and you go in and do a very rough estimate, or you go into a virgin site on the coast and say, well, I'm going to put a new treatment works here. And then you realize, without having any geotechnical information about the site, particularly no history on the site, no knowledge whether or not somebody may have spilled hazardous waste there. So that's where you have the very large cost range. But in the case of the facilities you're talking about, you at least have something on that alignment or adjacent to the alignment, or you're in the treatment plant site here, and it's very well defined. So you can narrow the range you're dealing with. And I think I explained that in the appendix.
Okay, I'd like to make two more points.
Please.
The districts that fund SAM have to be able to predict how much money they're gonna need for wastewater, right? And the districts have to go through the Proposition 218 process, which is lengthy, cumbersome, and sometimes doesn't work. I worked for a sanitary district right over the hill, and it got 218. They got like 60% no votes on 218. It killed the project, and it took 10 years from proposal. I mean, from water board saying you will do this as soon as possible. It took 10 years to finish that project because one of the participants in that JPA voted it down. So, and the other is that when we do a 218, we have to be able to predict a sort of smooth rise in the costs. And we have a huge rise in fiscal 26, 27. That I don't know how GCSD is going to deal with this, because are we going to predict do we have to go through the 218 process and predict we're going to need that high of money every year? Or can we step it up and then step it back down after that huge rise? I really think it would be good to smooth out the curve here on so that the expenditures don't go like this all of a sudden.
Well, that's why we had 2.5 million a year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
So-
yeah, and well, as you see, the 2.5 million a year goes up 4%, but then the actual proposed total. Remember, Sam went by half $500,000 over budget last year. The proposed target total was 250, but the proposed total 2,500 is 3,000 already, and you add those up, and you're 38% over the target totals before we even get started.
Mhm.
And so I don't know how useful this table could possibly be. But so for our district, it would be really helpful to smooth this out so that there weren't these big bumps in particular fiscal years that are very difficult to deal with. What was my other point?
Want to think about it for a minute and have Barbara ask a question?
Yeah, sure.
All right, well, I want to express a concern of mine, which is useful life. When I came on this board, it just puzzled me, the first projects that we did. So I spent quite a long time researching useful life. And I discovered that there is nothing behind it. Useful life is set by the manufacturer, which of course has some incentive to sell another one in X number of years. I would much rather see and I know Christian doesn't like it when I say this, but I think in many cases it would be really helpful to know you can't get parts anymore, or it's not functioning properly, it needs repair a lot and things like that. For pumps, the useful life of pumps is set, and it doesn't take into account, the general useful life, as near as I researched it, doesn't take into account the kind of pump, how well it was maintained, how much use it gets, all those things. So if it's possible, and I know that I'm not saying do this every time, but where it is possible, if you can give us something that's actually concrete that says this needs to be replaced now. And this goes to the question about the Princeton pump station. It's my understanding that we paid SRT quite a lot in 2020 to take a look at the Princeton force main, and they said it would last 30 more years. So it says in here that it'll be reevaluated, but it seems as if that is something that we could confidently say that we will postpone to help deal with the problem that Matthew is raising of the bumps in this list. So I guess my two questions. Number one, could you talk about useful life as a concept a little bit? And then my question about specifically that one project.
Thank you, Barbara. That was my other point, and you just made it. And, thank you. Yes, the SRT's own study says that the Princeton pump station force main is good for decades. And that's an expensive item that is in this budget largely in 26, 27, and it doesn't need to be done. So a lot if that's eliminated.
You shouldn't have been more investigation on that force main because it was investigated from the inside. And when the Montero force main broke, it was from external corrosion eating into the force main. So have we done more look at the Princeton?
No, we have not, but we decided in one of our meetings that we would need to do a condition assessment of the Princeton force main. So maybe we will do that next year or the year after. But therefore, we have set aside that money in 27, 28, just in case we need to replace the Princeton force main. Keep in mind that this is a rolling plan. This is not a plan which is finalized. We're not going to sign off. You're not going to give any funding for these things. So as the months progress, as the years progress, the priorities are going to change. Princeton force main might break. Touch wood, I don't want it to break. But if it breaks in the upcoming storm, then where are we? Condition assessment might say that it is good, but it's broken. The same thing happened with Montero force main. You know, I mean, to some extent, you can predict that it's not going to fail immediately, but you can't say that it will not fail. There's so many factors, external factors, which would lead to any pipe to fail. It could be corrosion, it could be all these surges coming. We saw the flooding water coming, so many things, pressure increase. We can't predict all those things. And therefore, such important ones which require more funding, we would like to put that in the 5-year plan and say this might come up. So next year we can review it and say if it's good, then push it a year further. That's all what we're saying.
But isn't it also like an accounting tool to have a target, a useful life, so that you could amortize the cost of equipment over a certain number of years? And of course, you want to do that conservatively, right? So yeah, accidents happen or things wear out faster. But for accounting purposes, especially if you're financing, you know, you need a target useful life, right? Am I wrong about that?
But
Yeah,
where does it come from?
Well, I think it's a combination of engineering and then, you know, accounting practice and principles.
Yeah, I mean, if we were not to take the useful life, I mean, if we wanted to, we could have put all the pumps here and said we want all these to be replaced next year or then replaced the year after. We have gone by the history of how the pumps have been maintained, what servicing has been done, and what is the availability of parts, and then put it in the 5-year plan, whether it's important or not.
So it's
That's how-
judgment, it's
yeah.
data, it's useful life.
Exactly.
It's
So
amortization.
you want to replace the ones that are having problems or have parts that you can't get. I know that's a big factor. A lot of them are old, so you can't get parts that they break down a lot. Those are all really good reasons to replace things.
Yeah, but we don't want to replace it after it breaks down. We want to do preventive maintenance and procure it well in advance. We're not waiting for it to fail to replace it.
So, but what happens if you replace it in 5 years? Do you then replace it again because you don't want to wait till it fails? I don't know. I'm sorry, I'm being a little, but okay, fine. I'll let it go.
Look at the
Barbara,
cost.
if it
Barbara,
helps,
look-
there's certain equipment, the industry as a whole, assuming reasonable maintenance, they'll say, well, the pumps are good for 80,000 hours. That's a typical value that's used. It's a useful life they require on the bearings and the specifications say. And so that works out to about 9 years if they're running continuously. So there are rules of thumb that have come out, and Keishan's well aware, familiar with this in the asset management world. which is what he's effectively doing, you have guidance through the industry and you have guidance with your own equipment. And that's about the best we can do.
That would be great. I would love to see for one piece of equipment, a detailed analysis of how the useful life was established.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah,
I
Barbara.
think make it up.
Yeah, Barbara, look at what happened to the Princeton pump station. It was brought as a CIP in 2013 for $750,000. And one agency kept on saying that the pump station is working, you don't need to replace it. So they would never allow us to move forward the Princeton pump station. And this year we replaced the Princeton pump station because we had problems of safety. And then we incurred a cost from 50,000, we ended up spending almost 2.5 million. So where do you go for that? Useful life. No, wait, let me finish, Barbara. Useful life, yes. It is working, it is functioning, it is pumping. But at what cost? At what risks are you doing that?
But there should be a way to quantify that, is all I'm saying. And for the Princeton pump station, you were able to say that there's a safety issue. You were able to say the specific reasons why you wanted to replace it. And we agreed to do it.
Don't forget the lawsuit. The lawsuit told us to do it.
The
So-
settlement with the, yeah.
Anyway, that's
So-
my, I've made it. I don't need to, I would love to see more backup on.
Well, I have a question for Bill. And that is, when you're designing these. You make sure you use equipment that has easily replaceable parts and I'm thinking you were going to say, yes, you're going to use easily replaceable parts. And not some fancy custom setup.
Proprietary.
No, not yet, proprietary stuff. I know. In my house, I fall in love with French bathroom fixtures. My husband says, we're going with Delta. Cause there's parts available. And lo and behold, Delta always won, and the one fancy French one I put in broke.
The standard of the industry is you typically, especially in California, there are requirements associated with competitive bidding, which typically means you need at least two. You need Acme or Fritz or equal, and you write your spec and you look around the industry and you with rare exceptions, you pick equipment where there are a couple manufacturers available, preferably ones with good reputations. So you try to avoid the exact situation you're saying. One, it's not a custom thing that's going to cause problems, and you're also you want something where there's parts that are going to be readily available. And I've had clients who they're out on eBay buying spare parts because they decided there's something, especially with things like electronics and control systems. It's about 5 years before it's obsolete. And it's just like your computers. And so we as engineers, we try to pick out things that are going to have good durability and good useful life, and for which parts are available. Sometimes it doesn't work out. Sometimes somebody comes in and buys out your favorite supplier or manufacturer and stops that line. Oh, we don't want to support that line of pumps anymore. But you do the best you can to try to avoid that happening. So we're
Yeah.
sensitive. We're
That's
sensitive
good.
to what you're worried. You're worried.
Right. I'm guessing the insurance might have useful data too.
Yeah, but I also wanted to point out one thing that Barbara brought up about useful life. The project that we have actually taken up in this 5-year plan, the first project is Montana Pump Station Standby Generator. That was 1979. It is 45 years old. That's why we say useful life. Now, how else can we assess it? And this is a major equipment. If the generator fails, then Montara pump station cannot function.
Yeah.
So then we do have to budget for it.
Yeah.
That's why it's come up.
Mhm.
The next one is the Montara pump station flow meter. That is the money meter. That's how member agencies are actually paying. And the accuracy dies down as it moves. These are mechanical items.
Mhm.
This was procured in 1984. So you can imagine, 34, 40 years old. So we have to budget for this. We don't want to wait for it to fail.
Yeah, because it's high risk.
These are the ones which are brought in the 5-year plan.
Yeah.
And then you have the Portola pump station standby generator, same item as the Montara pump station generator. Then you have the Portola pump station flow meter. This is the money meter again.
Mhm.
So these are the important projects which we brought in this 5-year plan.
Yeah.
We've not brought pumps like small pumps which we can procure anytime,
Right.
which we know
Mhm.
that if it reaches the end of useful life, heaven's not going to fall, sky is not going to fall. We can always get another pump and then work on it. So
But the
that's
good-
why we've done it.
The good thing about useful life is a parameter is that you know that, each year past that, the risk increases
Correct.
of failure,
Yep.
right? So you gotta balance that risk with,
Yep.
the outlay of money, and you don't wanna wait too long. Like I'm trying to figure out, I need a water heater. I've needed it for probably 3 years because it's lasted way longer than they're expected to last. I talked to installers, I talked to people who sell this stuff. And I just know I'm living on borrowed time with my water heater, but I'm trying to figure out, the best possible deal. I probably waited too long and one morning I'm gonna wake up and it's gonna be. But, so you gotta, balance that, and that's a
Yep.
judgment call by your general manager and his staff.
Yeah, that's why we have a laundry list of items to be replaced.
Yeah.
But we sat together with staff and we sat together with Bill and then prioritized and said, okay, we know member agencies' limitations, but they can pay only this much every year. So we balanced it out and said, we'll take the important ones. That's how this 5-year plan evolved. And still, I'm telling you, it's a rolling plan.
Yeah.
So it gets changed over a period of time.
And in our industry, we can afford major failures.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well,
Very
and
expensive.
what I'm hearing you say is the items on this list are there. Because you guys have done an initial look at them.
Yep.
But subsequent examination may say, well, that water pump in Monteras or whatever it is 20 years old. It's still strong and we've got a good maintenance record. I mean, we've all driven older cars that were past their expected lifetime, but if you keep the oil changed, keep the brakes changed. And
Except they're okay until they're not okay.
well, but
Then they just fail.
That happened.
That's right.
it does happen, but then there's your budget to consider too. Because at $75,000 for a car, that's a heck of a lot of money that I don't have sitting around.
It all
So
boils
I
down,
keep it going.
it all boils down to how much risk you're willing to tolerate.
That's true.
And it's one thing for you, it's another thing for a wastewater treatment plant, right?
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I'd rather be safer than sorry, honestly.
I have one specific question on the outfall inspection and repair number, the $490,000 that is mentioned there. I realized that we recently had work done up to 17 diffusers that needed to be replaced. I think the number that we got to was $212,000. Are those $212,000 now finalized? And is the work done? Or is this part of the 490,000?
I can fill in part of that. The project's not complete. The people that were doing the work is very specialized work. The people that were doing it, they got about halfway through and they got pulled off to another job. And they're supposed to be back in November. And I'm hopeful that the weather and the ocean holds out for them. Because that's what happened a couple years ago. When it's rough, they can't do the work.
Yeah,
So is this
Yeah.
$490,000
Case in
based on paying for that work? Or is there additional work
No, it's
in 2028 and
once we pay the
2029?
200,000, we don't have to repeat it again. We
Oh,
would have taken care of a lot of the diffusers.
so then the 490 includes 200,000.
Yes.
So.
And I wasn't aware that that project was underway, but I probably didn't ask the right question.
No, when this CIP was prepared a couple of months back, we still hadn't got a date for the divers to come in and
Okay, all right, thank you.
Work in progress.
So I think we've talked about this for some time. Is there anyone else that would like to address this item on public comment? Do we have anybody with raised hands or? I don't see anybody. Does somebody want to propose a course of action at this
I
point?
want to ask about the course of action.
Okay.
There's only one category 1 project, and we all agree on that, and it's Montara Force Main, but that's being worked on right now. So will we soon see a tighter budget estimate presented to the board to finish that one that everyone agrees has to be done right now, that the board can pass?
Yes, just to give you all an update, the RFP was sent out based on the RFQ that was sent out to the designers and the consultants. The RFP was sent out and we got proposals from 3 consultants. And we are actually having an interview with the consultants tomorrow, the 3 consultants. Member agency managers and engineers are also going to sit on the interview panel. We will have a presentation by each one of the contractors, and we hope to bring it to the board in the month of November to award the design process to the contractor. So it is moving forward. We will get closer estimates, closer budget numbers very soon.
And all of them commit to a finishing date by the 31st of December, 2025.
That is the
For
design
design.
part of it.
The design
Pretty
part of
much. And going forward, even the construction, they've committed that they can maintain the ERF deadline of 2027. They've got a
Right.
they've got a bar chart.
Yeah.
Yes. So that is in progress. We've got the proposals from them, so we are evaluating it as a group.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, so the actual construction of it is part of the big bump that's in fiscal 26, 27.
Yes, we need to finish it by
Yeah.
June 30th, 2027.
Thank you.
Peter, do you want to propose a course of action here around this?
Course of action is that we wait for further information from Kishan in regards to go back to the previous 2 CIPs, so that I have some more detail that I can bring up to the board and WSD together with this report.
And can that be done by the meeting in November? That's kind of a deadline.
Yeah, I
heard.
mean, you can, but I have one concern about it. This infrastructure plan is a rolling plan. The JPA does not require member agencies to approve the capital improvement plan. The JPA requires the member agencies to approve the budget.
Right.
So there's no funding on this, there's no fiscal. Why are we doing such a big fuss on a document which was created in August, sent to the member agencies in September? Why are we dragging it longer and longer to get it adopted?
I have a quick question, by the way. So, at the meeting before the SAM board a few weeks ago, there was one report, the one for this week has a different date on it. Has anything changed really?
Based on comments required by the SAM board, we made those changes, and that's the report that you guys presented to your council.
So that's why the date is
Yeah,
different.
that's what it is. We wanted all the project reports and some numbers to be changed and spread out the force main. So we did all that, revised it and sent it to everybody in September.
So, do you have a problem with accepting this now, but allowing for some planning to continue? Looking at the older CIPs, or is there resistance to accepting this is the way it is now, tonight? But continuing.
There
to-
is really no number involved here, because as you said,
Yeah.
it's a budget. So in that sense, what do you think, Catherine?
I think we should get it to our boards as soon as possible. we can discuss it, but again, we're going to approve the individual parts as parts of the budget anyway. There's going to be further modifications to this. And let's just get started. That line is going up.
Yeah, we approved this at our city council by motion. So
Correct.
we've already done that. I guess you guys haven't discussed it yet. Is that the-
We have,
You have,
and we had lots of comments,
okay.
especially critical comments
Mhm.
about how the report wasn't in depth enough and how we needed to have more information.
Well, if that's
And
the
that's what I
case-
was trying to get from Kishan.
Yeah, well, I
that I
never really
haven't been
understood from the
receiving
staff
so far.
report that there were no comments from your agency.
Oh, that's.
I haven't
not
got
true.
anything in
No,
writing from your board. We haven't got
No,
any. Right.
no, because we haven't finished discussing.
Okay, well, so then I think it's moot for tonight then. We just move on, let the two
Right.
agencies provide their input and there it is. Is that okay with everybody?
So we would want both
We're
the,
continuing.
so we want GCSD and NWSD to approve the fiber infrastructure.
Well, that's what we did. I thought that's what we were supposed to do. I thought that's why we sent it back to the member.
Okay.
Harvey, do you have any remarks about that?
Our technical people reviewed it. We were glad that there were changes made, that the board had requested previously. And, with the understanding that this is not, a financial document that we have to approve any outlay right now, we said to go ahead, and I was assuming that was gonna happen tonight, but I guess I was wrong.
Barbara has a hand up.
Barbara?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, as a guiding document, I would be okay doing it tonight, but I think postponing it just one more meeting and let's get the information Peter wants. And we actually did not have time to talk it. As you may know, we have a bunch of stuff happening at GCSD right now about the park. So it's been a very busy time, but I will make sure this gets on our next agenda and then we can bring some feedback.
Jeremy, do you have anything to add?
I just said the proper procedure would probably just be a motion to table until the next meeting. Because it's on for approval actually on this agenda, so if you want to be technically correct about it, the proper action is just a motion to table.
Is it better to continue, motion to continue or motion to table?
They mean the same thing, so it's fine, either way.
I see that quite differently, but I'd say motion to continue.
I like to continue.
Yeah.
It's
There's
more
a
positive.
hand up by George.
George,
I just wanted to add a point. I recall, I'm not sure how long ago it was, but we were talking about the CIP. I believe it was in the finance committee as opposed to a board meeting. And we were talking about going further back and looking at the CIPs to get more detail. And, the CIP reports you see in the last few years, last 3 years, that wasn't in place before. So going back beyond that period is gonna be a little more legwork than just looking at the CIPs that we've kept track of the way we're doing it now.
Just go back to the two CIPs that we are aware of. The one from 2017 and the one from 2020.
No, I believe I would do only the 2017 because that was adopted by SAM board. The 2020 is a draft document which was not accepted by the board, was not even distributed publicly. It was just sent to the member agency managers, and that's how it went into the director's hands. It's not a public document. So let's focus only on the 2017 public document, which was adopted by the SAM board. I can give a list of all the projects, the status of all the projects, which was indicated in the 2017 adopted CIP. Right, okay? Thank you.
okay, so we have a motion to continue.
So moved.
Second.
We have a roll call, please.
Director Clark,
Aye.
Director Radek,
Yes.
Director Decker,
Aye.
Director Ryback,
Yes.
Director Slater Carter,
Yes.
Chair I.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. So we move on to manager's report.
Any questions? You have a complete report for both August and September. If there are no questions, there is one.
Wait, I do, I'm trying to, I have to double click. I just had a comment if I may, on the monthly flow distribution report for 2024, which shows rain with virtually no, I guess the amounts must have been low, but it's still 1.2 inches. It's interesting because it's not affecting the it very strongly, the flow from the agencies. I just thought that was noteworthy.
Okay.
Yeah,
Just
that's all. Just a note.
I also had my colleague Tim talk about something on the speed bumps.
Oh, yeah, I wanted to bring up with the board, I've noticed that, apparently people are using our roadway and it's sort of a safety thing, like a 1/4 mile strip in the evening. I was thinking about looking into the possibility of getting like the speed sort of calming things so people don't go flying up and down the road at night.
What about moving the gate?
Because that is actually a public road, it's not Sam's specific road. It's my understanding that that is in fact a city street or a city road. I don't know that that's an option.
Miles, are you hearing this?
Good evening. Yeah, Tim's right. It is a city road, so that would be something to consider it. We also would, I just also would recommend we discuss this with Coastside Fire because of emergency response. They have some specific requirements with regards to speed humps, but we can certainly, I'm happy to talk with Sam's staff and work through that process.
Okay, thank you.
Maybe a camera.
Security camera for sure.
I think that's a good idea.
No,
So, what, are people racing? Is that what the problem is?
yeah,
That's,
Not racing side by side, just
just going fast,
extremely.
making noise. The neighbors have been complaining about it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I have one thing I want to just mention, which is that I was out birding there and discovered a very large patchable plant called stinkwort. A horrible plant, it smells terrible and it spreads really fast. I informed the city manager and they're going to work with state parks. State Parks wants to eliminate it because they're so afraid it will spread onto their properties and if it's adjacent. So they're working with the city to get the stinkwort out.
Good.
How do you spell that?
STINKWORT.
Stink.
Stink.
Stank work. That's
Yeah.
Probably a reason for that name.
And I think the city is working with the homeless guy who's living in the tent in the back there in the city property as well.
Okay, attorney's report?
Oh, deter.
Jeremy. We got
Jeremy, you're muted.
Jeremy.
You didn't miss anything. Here we go. One bill that I thought the board might find of interest is AB 805, which just passed. And this is an issue, 805 addresses an issue that I think I've talked to the board about before, and that is the possibility of the State Water Board essentially taking over or forcing consolidation of wastewater systems. Now, until AB 805 just passed, forced consolidation of water systems was authorized by legislation that passed about 4 years ago. And the State Water Board could require one water system, typically a large water system, to take over a small failing water system. In the context of, particularly in the context of disadvantaged communities, where the small water system was failing to adequately provide safe drinking water, or there were domestic wells that weren't meeting standards. And so, but there's no application to wastewater and sewage systems. So recently there have been apparently in other parts of the state, Orosi, I'm not really sure where that is in the state, but there have been some instances where the state wanted to do something similar with regard to waste systems, and they couldn't because the legislation wasn't in place. So anyway, starting in January, the State Water Board will have the authority. In fact, I'm going to show screen real quick. Share screen. Oops, Kishan, can you give me control real quick?
Show. There you go.
Thank you. Okay. Everybody see my screen? I'll make it bigger if I need to.
Make it bigger, please.
You got it. How's that?
Good.
Yep.
Okay. So I took this from the Senate Ledge Council's analysis. So the new law will authorize State Water Board, and it's only for 5 years, which is interesting. Actually 4 years, but it allows, once the State Water Board makes particular findings, to require a sewer service provider to contract with an administrator, someone basically who would take over the system, designated or approved by the board for administrative, technical, operational, legal, or managerial services to assist a designated sewer system with the provision of adequate sewer service, which is defined in the statute. A designated sewer system, and it authorized the state board to order the system to accept those services, and I might add, to pay for them, to include full management and control of all aspects of that sewer system. And then defines the designated sewer system as a system that, one, it has to serve a disadvantaged community. So if it doesn't serve a disadvantaged community, query whether you'd have application, although I think many systems do serve at least one disadvantaged community. And it has to be either an inadequate sewer system as defined, or a system that has demonstrated a failure to maintain technical, managerial, and financial capacity to fraud, waste, and abuse.
Right.
And then I'll wrap up here. And then there's certain findings the state board has to make before they can do it. And one of the things the state board can do is, to the administrator they appoint, it includes the authority to expend money for various purposes, and to set and collect sewer rates and fees, which, how that would work in the context of a JPA would be interesting if that ever came to pass. Anyway, so I just wanted the board to be aware of this. I don't envision there's a whole lot of application for us, or certainly, hopefully there isn't, but it is new, and it is something that, in the event Sam has significant trouble in the future, we'll have to keep our eye on.
Another good reason to get this stuff done quickly.
As far as I know, there are no disadvantaged communities on the coast.
I agree. I was just looking at the state map of disadvantaged communities, and there's very few in the whole Bay Area.
There are
We have a
different.
well-run sewer system.
Identifying that though.
Yeah,
I'll bet.
a Jillian. Whatever can be here.
The state
Gonna
has.
shop
the
around for one.
Yeah.
Well, let's not cross that bridge. But anyway, it's I just wanted you to know it was out there, just because it is a change that certainly has the potential to affect some wastewater systems.
Well, our sewer system is very well run, and our management is excellent. All of you who are on this call,
Couldn't agree more.
not worried.
Also, the changes to the Levine Act were passed. I have a memo on that. It's been collecting dust, but it was signed by the governor last month. So I had to get that to you folks. The main issue is that it was the current limit of $250 was increased to $500. Some other changes to make it a little less burdensome on people with regard to when you have to recuse yourself as a result of campaign contributions. So I will share that. I'm delinquent in doing so. And
Thank you.
you have it to look forward to. With that, no further report.
Thank you. Any director's reports? Any topics for future board consideration? Okay, well, what do we have on closed session? I think we have one labor item,
Yeah, we have 2 items actually.
two labor items. Okay,
No, one labor and another is.
oh, that's right, the potential litigation.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to adjourn to closed session. So I will ask anybody who's
Yeah, we need a 5-minute break to set up everything.
5-minute break to
Break.
set up, and everyone else needs to leave the room.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone, and good night.